So, hello everyone, and thank you for being with us. So, my name is Thomas from Climate Connect, and so welcome to the very first events of Course for Climate. Today, we start a series of presentations to introduce great actors of climate action. So, with the goal to share and exchange solutions to tackle climate change. So today we will talk about universities, and more specifically about sustainable ones through the topic, how to make my university more sustainable. So to briefly present the participants of this event, I'm part of Climate Connect, which is a non-profit organization who wish to facilitate the connection and the collaboration between climate protectors worldwide. So we are currently developing a web platform to gather and promote climate actions projects, and we have just started to organize global and local events to create new interactions, new bridges between citizens, associations, and companies. So in other words, we are creating a place where everyone can share climate projects, ask for help, and with for final objective to accelerate global cooperation between all environmental actors worldwide. And speaking of which, so today we are welcoming 6 environmental students and university organizations from all over Europe. And they will present themselves more in depth soon, but I would just say they are full of great ideas and projects concerning waste management, food, environmental sensibilization, and all of different topics. All of that in order to reduce the environmental footprints of their university. We also get some other people and auditors who are going to listen to this event. So for them, don't hesitate to ask questions, and to do so, you can type them directly in the chat, and we will ask them at the end of the event. So concerning the schedule, this session would take about an hour, but we have an infinite limit of time for those who will have really enjoyed it and wish to stay longer a bit afterwards. So it will be decomposed in 4 parts, starting with this current introduction and followed by a roundtable for organization to introduce themselves. Then we will have about 20 minutes of free speech around 3 major steps and acts for acting in your university. And finally, we will conclude with a recap of the content said and the possible actions to take in the future to implement those ideas. So right before letting the organization introduce themselves, we should just probably define a bit further concrete goals and results we could expect from such meeting. So we've asked you what were your expectations for this event, and most of you answered it was to connect with other associations, find new ideas, and share your experiences. So we've been really pleased to see how implicated you were, and this is why we want to together start creating a new community inspired and volunteer to change things by helping each other. But to do so, we need some short, medium, and long-term plan to efficiently and durably change universities. And it will probably start with the need of a creation of a proper structure, a legal base to gather people and ideas. And so no matter if they call Green Office, Environmental Desk, or any other name, no massive changements will ever be possible in a community like a university if it doesn't exist some place where people can talk, can share, and can agree on the direction to follow. And so this leads us to the next step, because by gathering people, new ideas will come up, and you're all proof of that. But it would be stupid to not make other actors benefit from it. So then comes out the question, to how best replicate effective projects and how do you spread good practices worldwide. And then after having done all of those great projects everywhere, come the last points, which concern the monitoring that needs to be applied to those projects in order to assure the maximum impacts. So here are the main points that I want to talk about with you tonight. Why and how to create a structure to gather people, what and how projects could be replicated, and how do we estimate the impact. So those are probably our biggest challenges, and this is why we need people to make it change, to create a nest of solutions to provide to whoever looks for transitions. So for now, I think I've spoken a bit too much, so we will give the words to all the organizations to introduce themselves so they can speak about their projects and their plans to the future. So if SNEEP is ready, maybe we can start with them so they can just present themselves to every participant.
Yes, hello everybody. Is the sound okay? Do you hear me? Okay, then I'm going to share my screen. One moment. Okay. No. Okay. Hello everybody. My name is Magdalena and I'm in the group called SNEEP. SNEEP stands for Student Network for Ethics in Economics and Practice. This network is throughout Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. We here in Erlangen in Bavaria are a group with about 8 to 12 students. We all share our interest for sustainability and climate issues. We don't narrow it down to ethics and economics because we also feel like doing projects in other subject areas. And we are a mix of students from various fields, and I think this is very positive. We meet once a week, normally in person, but in these times we are Zoom. And then we talk about what's going on, we discuss new ideas and also think about how we can support the other groups which are active in Erlangen. To connect better with like-minded people in our area, we invented a so-called eco-plenum in which we meet members of other groups once a month. And I want to share some of our previous projects with you. Our biggest event has been the Sustainability Days at our university. During 3 days, there have been workshops, lectures, panel discussions, and other smaller activities, as for example, our smoothie bike. This is a bike which has been built by Tobias, and with your cycling, you give power to the smoothie mixer, which is pretty cool. We have organized vegan cooking classes in our cafeteria. And in addition, we work together with the cafeteria to invent a carbon footprint for every dish. For that, an external company has been assigned to calculate the carbon data. And a project which is currently going on is an exhibition together with other groups. It's about fair trade, legislation for supply chains, and sustainable startups. Yes, that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the presentation. Maybe we can continue with the next organization if she has joined, because she was late at some point. No, she doesn't seems to be here right now. Okay, so maybe we could ask to the next one. Oh, sorry. She's not here now. Okay, so maybe now the Green Office from Groningen. So, by the way, sorry about my pronunciation for the name. I might scratch a bit the name, but yeah, if the can introduce Irene, can introduce yourself and your project.
Yeah, hi everybody. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay, perfect. Yeah, I don't have any slides because I thought it's like 3 minutes. Well, what I wanted to maybe say is that the Green Office of Groningen was originated like 5 years ago, and we really are trying to do a structure that is top down and bottom up at the same time. So we have some staff members that have different expertise on research, education, or mobility or communication. But we also have volunteers that are usually students, and they are divided by faculties. And the idea is that every group try to make the faculty more sustainable. And if they have any problems or need any support, they can talk to us. So currently we have 5 staff members, 4 student assistants that are basically in the middle between staff members and volunteers, and around 120 volunteers divided by faculty. And I think that it is really working very well because students are very involved and they always come up with very nice initiative and idea, but it's not always easy to channel them. So that's why we also have the staff member. I know that other green offices in the Netherlands have the same structure, which is working quite well. Another thing that we are doing is also try to be in the middle between academics and support staff members. For example, now we are trying to write the ambitions for the university for the next 5 years in different topics, mobility, food, and so on, and energy. So what we are trying to do is take the academics that have a lot of expertise and try to make them communicate with the support staff member that, for example, they coordinate the canteen of the university and try to develop together goals, measurables for the next 5 years. And other projects that we have is about education. We have, for example, living labs, where students with different projects for the minors or the thesis can come to us, and we can collaborate to make the university more sustainable so that we have data and they have a good grade. We also have summer school, and we just started a student-led learning course where students themselves design a course on how to teach sustainability to other students. And the rest is mainly events or other types of activities. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks. Thanks for the presentation. Now, after maybe Aurora, I will try to pronounce the name of your organization, Naturvernstudentene. I hope I pronounce it well. So yeah, you can talk now.
Thank you. I actually managed to find the presentation, so I'll just switch to that now. There, I think. Yeah. Okay, so our group is just a local branch of a larger group, actually 2 larger groups. And as you can see in this picture here, we don't always have to be very happy and I would say satisfied, because sometimes, like this week, our government in Norway has had some terrible plans for the future regarding oil. So I thought this was kind of a nice start. We can be quite annoyed and angry sometimes. And we're part of the Young Friends of the Earth Norway, and also the Friends of the Earth Norway, so like the old guys, mostly. And what we do is that we basically gather students who have a love for the environment and climate together, because in Norway there's lots of organizations for climate students or students who care about biology, but few kind of gather them together and focus on conservation as well as like education. So I think we kind of combine the best of both worlds in most matters regarding this. What's kind of made us known here in Oslo, if we are at all, is that we have weekly climate strikes. Now they're digital, so they're not so visible, but we've had, I think this is like week 60, 55 or something there, I forget. And this has actually managed to get the climate in Oslo better, and we got more climate into the university, into their like program for the next 10 years and 5 years, and for the Oslo program for 10 years, which is quite big. We also have like lots of protests because our government right now doesn't care that much about the environment. They dump toxic mining waste in the fjords. They work with Russia and going to send nuclear waste to Russia and dump it some rivers, you know, the usual stuff. There's some big things like that. So we focus on the big national, international things, but we also focus on small things like the salamanders at our campus, because we think they're endangered. And this semester, we're going to try to find some professors to look at these and say, are they endangered? And if yes, how can we help them? So we also have these small things that we do. And it seems like many people at our university wants to help us. We just need to find out who has the knowledge about salamanders. And that seems to be 2 guys in Norway, and they're both busy. And so we also have these nature walks, and we have the monthly forest trips in the forest here in Norway, because there's lots of international students coming to Norway, and many of them have no or little experience with forests or hiking or mountains. So it's basically getting to know the forest so it's safe as well. This semester we also had some really big things, even though it's been really hard with the corona, of course, but we had the Earth Day, like our local group had the Earth Day event for the whole Norway, together with WWF, and there was like 500,000 people who joined in some way. So that was really good to see that we actually reached out to people, even though it was in the middle of a crisis. Not just one, but 2 crises, yeah. And we try to focus on the positive, and I always like to end on a positive note. So I just want to say that we were part of the team who managed to fight equinor out of Australia and out of the beautiful bites. So I just want to say that the things we do actually work, and we are a part of a bigger thing. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Now we can maybe keep on with ÖkoRef from Germany.
1 second. Wait. Okay. So I hope you can hear me. Perfect. Let's minimize that. I'm from the ÖkoRef from Germany, also from the FAU, like SNEEP. Our main project in the last time was a concept for climate protection and sustainability, and we handed it over to the high-ups from our university, and they signed it, they accepted it, and a lot of projects have been done so far, like establishing a green office where I'm going to work from the 1st of July. So that's one big thing. Another thing is that they a lot of other projects, like getting a climate fund where everyone can every scientist can put some money in to support some projects like building new photosynthetic things. The next thing the ÖkoRef did was Querdenker Festival, was it called? It's mainly a festival where you can see a lot of groups who are acting in sustainability and help each other connect to the other groups and help, especially connecting. Yeah, that's the main point as well. So connecting. Then we had a Jumbly sale. So like everyone from the students can help and sell whatever they want. So there's no much waste. Then we had an eco brunch. So mainly just eating together with all the other groups. then together with SNEEP, the Cooking for Climate, and the next project was a Kahoot quiz, which I learned from Norway when I was there, and we established it, and we are going to make it another time, hopefully. And then we did a sustainability guideline for university groups, so how they should do their courses and some festivals and events, how it is possible to be more sustainable in this kind of thing. And the next thing was that we created a lecture series about sustainability at our university. So there are now every Tuesday, there's now a lecture from each department, like medicine or geography, about sustainability at our university. Right. That's it again.
Okay, perfect. And then the last one, so the environmental subcommittee from St. Andrew with Leah. Yep.
Yes, hello, I'm Leah. I'm the environment officer at the Student Association in St. Andrews, so in Scotland, the University of St. Andrews. And yeah, let me just wait. I'm going to quickly share my screen with you. Okay, so hope you can see that. Yeah, I quickly wanted to run through a little bit in terms of what we do, because I guess the structure in St. Andrews is quite interesting, especially our position as the Environment Subcommittee, because we're kind of part of a wider network of environmental activities that are happening at the university. And that, yeah, I just kind of wanted to explain that a little bit more in terms of that. We're direct linked. I'm the environment officer, and who gets elected every year new and builds a new subcommittee. And that's part of the student association, and we kind of look at student environmental initiatives from kind of a student association side to look at how can we improve sustainability in our communities, in our societies, how can we promote what's happening in St. Andrews, how can we push that further at a higher level, and what's happening in university governance as well, and then yeah, kind of fit that into what are the student concerns. And that also kind of fits into, I don't know if how many of you have probably heard of the Transition Initiative, with some of the other initiatives that are happening in St. Andrews, and Transition is one of them. And yeah, that's also part of the wider global network around transition. And we're very supportive of what Transition does to kind of put forward like volunteer opportunities that happen there. Obviously, there's not that much time to go into what they do, but there's a lot in terms of like community gardening and raising awareness, looking at lifestyle choices and changes, and yeah, cycling and things like that. So those are kind of all the small kind of initiatives, plus initiatives that are put on by student societies, because we have quite a lot of student societies that also taking on environmental initiatives, especially now there are increasingly more societies that do that. And yeah, but nevertheless, I think what has also contributed to a lot to the, I guess, the change of the environmental scene has been the climate strikes, which have really sparked an increased interest and also an increased growth in movement around what's happening globally, but also, yeah, at our university in terms of, yeah, we had the biggest one that we did was the line in the stand, which was part of the global strikes on the 20th of September, which you can see in the pictures here. And that kind of sparked as well, I guess, a movement and a bigger interest in sustainability, also from a university side, which is where the Environmental Sustainability Board at the university was also created to kind of support student initiatives, but that's from a management level, I guess, from a university board. That means that our university is actively looking at ways and how can we actually become a sustainability leader, and how can we include student voices in this. And it's actually really great to see that this is especially has kickstarted now during the whole crisis in terms of that, yeah, in terms of Corona, that we didn't have that like contact, or we weren't at the university, but nevertheless the university has taken steps to kind of include initiatives and include kind of create a vision, especially now. I think this is an opportune time to think of some new ways and how we can include new initiatives and think of re-greening things. So yeah, like I already said, that's also an opportunity for us as the Environment Subcommittee to lead in student opinions, what's happening wider at the university and in our communities. Our role really is to more as a representative side. And in the past, it's been a lot education focused. So one event that and a project that the subcommittee's taken on in all the previous years has been Green Week, which is a week focused on events and raising awareness, kind of tackling different themes each year. And that kind of looks at panel discussions and film screenings and yeah, also include looking at what promoting and collaborating with other groups, which I think is very important, because I feel like what happens a lot, which is why this is great, is that there are a lot of small initiatives, and it's good to look how can we actually combine all our efforts and how can we create collaboration. But then also our aim is really to look at, especially for next year, what is our sustainability policy for the union, and also, yeah, what's happening at the university. So to kind of gather ideas, what can we actually do that universities become more sustainable, because we're learning for a future, but we don't know if that future exists. So and to what extent it exists. So we need to ensure that, yeah, we have a habitable planet. So our focus really for this year is kind of look at this rebuilding and this re-greening, but also looking at issues that are kind of surfacing at the moment in terms of how health and climate are interlinked, how and kind of, yeah, also intersectional environmental issues, and how that relates to intergenerational justice, social justice, racial justice. And I think that's really important that we kind of link that with what's happening at the global level, and how can we link that to the topics that are happening, and how actually all of our crises are interlinked. So I think that's really important, and especially I think what we're really looking to do this year is to try and create a lot of more online engagement as well, because obviously no one knows how the format of things will be in the future, how universities will continue to function, especially international places like our university. We have a lot of students from all over the world. So it's important to kind of look at how can we create a global movement, but then in a situation where, yeah, maybe a lot more of us are online or socially distanced or things like that. So I think that's something I'd also be interested to hear more about what everyone's planning to do for next year, and how we can continue that momentum in the world to really push for climate action. So yeah, I'm interested to really discuss that more. And yeah, I just wanted to say these are some contact details for me personally, my email, but also the subcommittee email, our Instagram, Facebook page, YouTube. So please reach out, and yeah, we're always happy to hear opinions and yeah, collaborate. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. Yeah, you said the right words. It's all about like collaborations, and which is like really the point we want to have through such type of events. So now that everyone has introduced itself, I think maybe we can just try to think about like how we could just all benefit from knowing each other's. And as said a bit previously, we can approach through some free time, some free talks for about like 20 to 30 minutes now. Some topics which can be the creation of an office, gathering, like how to best gather and also to estimate the impact of the taken actions. So I think like for now it would be more like an interactive speech. So whoever wants to say something, to ask a question, etc. So don't hesitate. But maybe just to launch with the debates, maybe to the few organizations that has already created a green office, an environmental subcommittee to gather all people in action in the same university. Was it difficult to create that? How long did it take? Were there some like traps that happened during the creation? What could be the interest of doing it, and how hard is it? if one of you has some feedbacks to give about this creation.
Maybe I start.
Yeah.
So mainly the most annoying part was to write the concept we had. So it took about a year to write the whole thing. So it is like you can present it on a law base. So it's fixed and no one can stand against it, and to approve it as well. So that took quite a while, and sadly we don't have it in English. So otherwise I could like link it here, but probably gonna do it translated in English. So maybe I can just send it next time. And but that was the main point. Then it was just presenting it, and the university was already like, yeah, thanks for the help. Like we took a lot of time they had to invest in it from them, so it was quite good for them. And the main part is what a university wants is to stop spending money, and what is good for the university and what helps them to get out of it, so what they get from it. And if you have something like, yeah, okay, if you do this and this and this, you have to spend less money, and that's the main point a university wants. So that was the main point where we looked at what would increase if we do this, if we do that. So that was the best thing we thought of, and how to improve this in a sustainable way. So that was the best thing. And then it just took 2 months until our university decided to accept it. And well, some parts they didn't accept, but at least a big part. And then they, the first thing they decided was to establish a green office. And sadly, there's no direct persons who got a new job and were set in, but they were already working at a university, but at least that's something. And now there are also like students helping working there, like me, and so that's going to be quite helpful. But on the other side, it was just established on the 1st of April, so it's not that old, but it's working and it's getting something done. So maybe someone else with a longer green office, an older one, has something to add.
Yeah, sorry, my computer got frozen for a bit, so I think I lost some questions. So as I understand, you're asking how the Green Office was born or something like that? Yeah. Well, I was not there, so I got hired only 1 year ago. But as I remember, the Green Office usually in the Netherlands, they start more from students. While in Groningen was a bit different. It was a person that was already working in a department of health and sustainability that decided it was time to have a green office. And it was easier because, of course, as a staff member that was working there already since 30 years, has a direct link with the board of the university. So it was easier to kind of like convince the board how important was to put the university on more a sustainable track. And then from when the Green Office was settled, then they started to involve the students themselves. But I know that usually Green Office, they work the other way around. So it's a group of students that start them, and then they manage to convince the board to focus on sustainability. Of course, if you start as a student is a long way because the board doesn't listen to you as much as it should. But yeah.
And yeah, because maybe a question, like as students like try to change things in your university, how is generally your relations with the like with the board of the university? Are they usually appreciating the concept of creating a green office or implementing some new sustainable actions, or are they on the opposite, a bit less willing to act and more conservative about it? What was the experience?
So it depends a lot from the topic. For example, regarding energy or mobility, the board was very happy to help us issuing some policy. For example, now all the electricity from the university is 100% green, and that costed a lot of money, but the university was fine with that. On the other hand, when we try to convince the university to focus, basically the idea was to that when you go to a canteen or you order food, then you would give a vegetarian meal as a default, and only if you ask, then you would get the meat. We tried to put together as much students and academics as possible, but the board completely decided not to do it because it was a lack of freedom. So it really depends on the topic.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. Because at my university here in Oslo, we don't have a green office as a green office. We have like different offices, and they have different subjects, and they have different tasks, and they have different programs. So even though there's a lot of green things going on, they're all like everywhere and nowhere at the same time. So very often when things actually happen, it's because of cooperation between students and the people who work at the universities. That we had the huge, I would say, almost uprising amongst the the people working at the university, and they were like, we don't want to fly as much as before. We're flying too much. Give us more time to travel so we can fly less. And the university was like, no. And then we had like a couple of thousand people signing a whole petition, and then it went through, and the university was like, okay, we'll let you fly a bit less, and we'll try to find a new travel company. So when we order tickets for you, you don't automatically get plane tickets. In the future, you might get to choose, because now you can choose. You have to pay from your own pockets to travel by train, which is insane in a country as Norway, when people often just have to travel quite short distances in time or in travel. Yeah, so that's been a huge thing here. And a big problem for us is that we have such a structure that the organizations and or the people who care about the environment, they enter into organizations such as my own. My organization is just 2.5 years old, but we have, well, before Corona, we had 50 active members and 100 paying members or something like that in total. I'm not sure. But then half of our student members went back to their home countries. So very many of the climate things we're going to work on now are just gone because the organizations are the ones working with them. So I can definitely see a benefit from having a climate office or a green office. That seems very, I would say, safe, because at least you know someone's working on something, and if you need help, you know where to go. Because we just usually email around and call people and phone terrorize the main office until they give us numbers or people or give us meetings with people. So yeah, we have a way to go at least. But we do have one thing, is that all the environmental organizations at our university, we have a climate conspiracy group where we conspire to make the university more green and cool and climate friendly. So that's cool. I recommend everyone to make their own climate conspiracy group to answer for the people who say that we are conspiracies, or we're living in a conspiracy, that we actually conspire. Yeah, things should be fun. It's kind of important.
Yeah, I just wanted to chip in and add as well from our perspective, because obviously for us it's a little bit different in terms of the setup of how we work at the university, because I think as someone mentioned earlier, with us similarly, we have a lot of like different societies and groups that address environmental issues, and it's only now that I think some structures coming into that, and that's really helpful actually, also from a university side. That the university is has established the environmental sustainability board, I think is already, like, I can already feel like the impact of the structure is already changing, because it actually feels like there's a setup of activities and of links between student groups, and that actually ideas and things feeding back to the university, and also creating a network of people So I think that's actually really important, and I actually feel really grateful that for us at the university, our university is very supportive of sort of environmental green ideas and implementing those. I mean, it's always a question of kind of what is always put forward, but I think there's a lot of scope for action, and I think personally I'm quite excited in terms of what's happening, and what can be done if I think groups or if people come together. But I think effective collaboration is something that I definitely it's definitely something that needs to always be encouraged or developed, because it's so difficult. In the past, if there are a lot of groups and a lot of people kind of interested in doing their own thing in terms of how do you coordinate and actually create something that can collectively be impactful and get people together. So yeah.
Yep. And so do some of you know some other association or organization that can help other university to set up a green office, for example? Because, or would some of you be willing to help, for example, other organizations to be developed? Because I think, as you all just said, it's really important if universities in general want to make things change in their own office, that they need to have someone or something to help them to start creating those ones. So have you ever heard of some organization that can help to do that, or would you personally be willing to provide your help for those who might wish?
Well, I don't know if you heard about the Green Office movement. Is actually an organization that helps you to set up your own green office.
Okay. Green Office movement, you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
There is also a Facebook group that you can even just join, and then you can just ask some questions. But if you actually need like help with the structural changes, they have courses, and then you can even call them, have meetings. You explain what is the situation. They can also address you to other green offices that maybe are closer or have a specific problem that you also have. I suggest to contact them.
Mm-hmm.
I would also suggest, rather than always, because I think there is quite a lot of like online groups or organizations that you can probably form a society of or kind of form a link of, but specifically with making universities more sustainable, I think I would encourage to get students together to speak to university boards or representatives to actually create a board or some sort of representation or like feedback between university and actual students group, because otherwise it ends up like a lot of things falling on students. Or also I think it feels like you're not moving forward. So I think having that link is a really, like, it might be it's difficult because maybe not all universities want to do that, but I think maybe if you can put forward some ideas in terms of like other universities are doing that. I mean, like St. Andrews is doing at the moment, and put forward like other universities are having a board and listening to students, and have that link to actually have the university commit to what students are doing as well, or to link back, so it doesn't always feel like it's just an outside and you're always pushing against something, but try and figure out a way how can you actually work together.
Could I ask a question? Because we have a special problem at UIO, and there's a couple of other universities in Norway as well, but we don't even have a green office. We have like oil and energy office, kind of, I guess that's what you would call it. So we've tried to like get Equinor, the main oil company in Norway, to stop funding different things in our university. We're talking about, I think it's 60 million a year or something. And it's supposed to go not only to oil stuff, but it's clearly also going to oil stuff. And we're like, instead of like actually doing some green stuff, it would help just stop doing the bad stuff. Does anyone of you have any experience with stopping doing the terrible shit the universities do because of the money?
Petitions, I think, or actually putting forward in terms of like divestment movements. I don't know if you've heard of the divestment movement. I think there's quite a lot of support and resources as well in terms of what other students have done, in terms of maybe organizing some sort of protests or sit-ins, or even just circulating now in this time, circulating a petition I know that's something that was done in terms of climate emergency in St Andrews, like a climate emergency petition, which was taken forward to the university, which was circulated widely in terms of just students signing to do that. But I mean, petitions are always like, I've rarely seen that they're just that they are the most effective on its own. I think you usually need something else with it. So just keeping the pressure up, I guess, in terms of actually organizing things that sit in or really actually showing, because I think even though universities sometimes pretend like they're not listening, like the student voices actually do count, because we are the people who are, you know, who are being taught or who are inputting in universities as students. So they need to listen to their students, and the bigger the movement, or the bigger there are group of people who say this is not a university or not a future we want, and we don't want to study at a university that has massive investments in fossil fuels, I think that will really get the university thinking, or should at least.
Johanne just joined us, so maybe you want to introduce yourself and catch up a bit the meeting.
So hi, I'm Johanne, and I'm the former president of Esp'r, which is the association that promotes all the stuff about sustainability and, well, social economy in HEC Paris. And so it's an association that has two main actions. So the first one is based on the campus life, and so we organize events like lectures or as organic food sales. Sorry, and we also organized this year Earth Week, which was a full week focused on different subjects about global warming. So we had like one day about the energies, one day about all the impact of food production and what like stuff during 4 days. So that was the first year we launched it, and it was really appreciated by all the students. So I think we will continue this for the next years. And well, so this is one of our one part of our activities, and another part is mainly focused on the career of the future students. So we contribute to the organization of one of the biggest recruitment events in HSE, which is called the Carrefour. And within this event, we organize a sector. We invite companies that are likely to get engaged for climate or social issues, and that are hiring students. And we also organize some workshops with companies or professionals and students, so they can like have a discussion and like talk about their jobs, and so students can have more perspectives on their future as willing to act for more social justice and more ecological transition.
Thank you. Now, I think something that might be interesting is to approach maybe sector by sectors, action that can possibly be made to change things in the university. So I think like all the food related to, like the food consumptions related to all the university and its students is one of the major sources of environmental destructions and impact. So maybe because here we have one or two associations that are like quite focused on reducing environmental deteriorations through food consumptions. Maybe people from SNEEP can maybe suggest few leads or few projects, an idea that might be easily replicated into other universities. I don't know if you have such type of projects that you can just share with everyone here.
We were going to start the matpakkekampanje. because in Norway usually you bring your own food from home, which is really sustainable in many ways. You can bring your own bread or whatever, and you just buy, if you need something, you just buy like a banana or that kind of thing, which is a more sustainable way of eating than dining out or buying small packages of one-time use things and these kind of things. But because of Corona, everyone's eating home, so I'd say it's the most successful thing we've ever done. Before we started, all the students started eating home, so I mean, works perfect. But like in the long-term thing, for the next semester, we'll try to actually implement it so there's information about the benefits of bringing your own foods, and that the food you choose is like try not to eat dairy and these kind of meaty things and all that, and that you try to find local food. And in Norway, it is possible to eat local, but most Norwegians just don't, because we have the money to buy other things. So it's kind of more like change your focus when you buy food and that kind of thing. Yeah.
So maybe I can just explain a little bit from what we did with SNEEP, since I'm also a member of SNEEP and Climate Connect. So we had a project where we worked together with our canteen. And at first we tried to, like, our goal is to have the CO2 output of every meal be displayed at the cafeteria. So you can choose based on how good or bad your meal will be for the climate. So at first our idea was we just calculated ourselves with our student group, and we had some pretty good talks with the university, and also did some kind of a test run. So we had a little, like, we set up a table in front of the cafeteria and just calculated the CO2 output for all the for the meals on the day, and we just displayed it on the entrance and talked to people about what they think about it and stuff like that. So that worked pretty good. And so now we were, like, at the beginning or end of last year, we were in talks with the canteen management, and they actually want to, or they are working together with a company called, I forgot the name. Do you know, Chris?
I'm not sure of the name, but it was like a Swiss company that's pretty new, and they're doing CO2 calculations for restaurants and for you.
So they started working together with them, but we don't have any results yet. So we're still waiting a little bit, but are also involved in the whole process. So that worked pretty good from our side, and that's also maybe something that could be done on other universities.
Oh, I found it's called Eternity.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And also, like, what the ÖkoRef did at our university is to, through some sort of a petition, or like collecting many, like having students sign a paper, they could convince them that they now offer 50% vegan or vegetarian food, and only the other 50% is with meat. So that's also pretty nice. And it was like, it took quite some work, but in the end we convinced them, and it's maybe also something that other universities could do.
Okay, now, and so now we talked a bit about food. I think one of the really important aspects concerning more sustainable universities, and it's something we already just quickly talked about, is about mobility. And especially now with the new means of transportation in terms of eco-mobilities, and also in the current times of coronavirus. Is it something that some of you has already did or tried to work on in the projects in the universities? Probably bicycle and or electric trotters, etc. Is one of you approaching this topic?
Yeah, in HEC, there mobility is a whole subject. As I think, like we are not alone in this case, but there are a lot of students that come from abroad, and so there is a huge CO2 impact because many students come in HEC or travel by plane. So it's quite an issue, and what we are implementing is a carbon compensation system. So we are still negotiating, but the idea would be that the students pay a certain amount into a fund made by HEC, and that fund will finance some ecological projects. And we're also looking for an application that would give the CO2 impact of each travel. So students can choose their plane according to that kind of data that they haven't yet. And regarding all the transportation by car, we have made a partnership with an app that propose itineraries from one point to the other, giving the most ecological travel, and giving points to the client according to the ecological impact. And with those points, the client would get like a gift or something. So it's quite an incitation to take the bicycle or common cars and stuff.
Okay, yeah, that's a really nice feature, and it can also. Do you know if these what's the name of the app?
The name is Mobility. I will write in on the comment.
Oh, okay, yeah. So yeah, it's something that can also could be spread to other countries or universities. And another topic besides mobility is environmental sensibilization, and I think like most of you has already talked a bit about it, that you have some Earth Week, Green Week, and some activities and workshops to do some sensibilization about students to their current lifestyle, but also maybe in their next professional life. So maybe it's something that the one who already did can give some recommendation for the other ones to how to best create some sensibilize people about their professional impact and activities. Right.
I mean, I guess I can go off a little bit of that, because I guess that's something that the Environment Subcommittee has done a lot in the past in terms of raising awareness. I mean, it's always important because it's actually, I think it's something that needs to be pushed into a lot more as well into student mindset, not just in terms of as like a hobby or side project, but something that's actually included in curriculum and in some sort of wider ethical I think landscape of students that are attending the university. So it's always a challenge, I guess, at the beginning in terms of setting up something like that, in terms of actually how do you get people to be interested, to want to engage in those topics. Something that I've realized this last year is that with the global movement, a lot more other societies that have previously not been as interested in sustainability have become involved. So topics like fashion and things like that, and maybe via those routes is quite an interesting route to maybe engage some people who are previously not as interested, to look at, like, if you're looking at the topic of fashion or fashion shows, which happen quite a lot in St. Andrews, in terms of how then addressing the topic of fast fashion, and then ethical consumption and things like that. So I would encourage you to kind of look at the topics or the scene of the things that are happening at the university, and figure out a route through that. Another way, I think, which has been done a lot, is through plastics. I think plastics is something that a lot of people have become aware of, especially if it's close to a sea area. And then through that area, linking into, if that you can see more people are interested in that one topic, through that linking people back into like the broader perspective on environmental issues. But then I think another one in current times I would encourage is just to link it with our current issues, to link at how actually Corona is the result of a zoonotic disease, which is due to our invasive impact into natural habitats. And I think raising awareness and speaking about those sort of topics is very important, because it's firstly not done enough in media in general, but also can get a lot more people to think about how our current crisis and how our current world is changing because of our global impact, and how that's linked to our ecological crisis.
Yeah, like at our university, we've had a focus on how students who want to become more conscious about what they choose to do and how they do it, and also people who work there to a certain extent, that they have the tools to do this. Because even if we're in an informational digital age, people actually don't understand or don't know the things they want to know. They want to know, if they eat this fish, is it actually good for nature and climate? And in Norway, surprisingly often the answer is no, it's not. And you feel kind of lost, and it's a whole maze to kind of walk through, because we do need to have outerwear that's like for cold degrees. Like, what kind of outerwear should we buy? Can you wear wool the whole year? That kind of thing. And these questions, they keep coming up, and most people just don't know the answer. So what we often try to do is to find the answers and kind of answer them for people, because we know people are like, are there bears in the forest? That's a good question. And we can say, no, we've eradicated them from some forests. They don't live here anymore. Then we can explain why. Then we can say it's safe to go into the forest because there's no bears. But they're like, is there wolves? And we're like, yes, there's 2 wolves left in our forest, just 2. And they might have cubs. We hope for the best, kind of. And they were like, aren't you afraid? And we're like, no, of course not. It's a part of nature, and we're a part of nature. And anyway, wolves don't like people. And suddenly people just like experience nature in a whole new way, and they have the tools to know that something isn't dangerous. And if we use this in the same way with climate, it's like you just go so far from one place to somewhere else. And instead of being afraid of things and fearing things, you can look forward to seeing butterflies and bumblebees and these kind of things. So we're kind of changing the narrative, because people feel like everything is hopeless, nothing is going to work. Like, the big grown-ups are ruining the world, and yes, they are. But when we try to make it better, we still kind of make it worse sometimes, and that feels shit. So trying to fix that has been a huge part of our mission. And we also work a lot with existing organizations and unions and student unions and all these kind of groups, because we know that they often have people who are active and have questions. Yeah, so, and also a lot with international groups, with international students.
Maybe it's also like something you all talked about by being like already connected with few organizations in your own university, or with for example, being part of Friends of Earth in a local like country, which also in international movements, so might lead you to have some knowledge with other people. But I think one question which is like really important for all of us right now is, what do you think that miss every local university or local group just to spread and share their good ideas and their good projects? Because we all of here, you all said like and explained the great projects you had, and sometimes there's some doublings, like the double projects existing, and so it appears that it needs some international connections. And in the questions is like, how do you, in your opinion, could we help to spread good practices? How do you do that locally, and what do you think that, and first, is it possible, and second, how can it be done? Does one of you have some leads to do that? Like, is it through internet, like such type of events, just like organizations just talking with themselves and share idea? But then how can we estimate the impact of the actions that has been done? And this is the whole question of, all right, so there's a lot of there's plenty of different type of solutions, but how can we be sure that the project we're working on are actually worth it in terms of environmental compensations? So does one of you or has like do some concrete environmental impact estimation for their action? Or because, like, for example, it's a bit what SNEEP were doing by calculating the impacts of the meal. There, it's some concrete numbers you can put on your actions. Or, for example, on mobility, by encouraging people to take bicycle or electrical trotters rather than car. It's a way to put numbers on actions, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think it can also help people just to, okay, so we are going forwards and by that amount. And so, yeah, I don't know if you have some local says, you can calculate that.
I think on that point, it's actually it's a really good point, because it's quite difficult almost as students to sometimes assess the impact and assess kind of the numbers, because like impact assessments do take time as well, and sometimes I think there's a fear of also creating too much paperwork rather than like always assessing something rather than actually implementing something. And maybe that's where sometimes a little bit of outside help almost is needed, in terms of either the university or employees or staff can actually take forward impact assessment to say, oh, these are projects that were initiated, and those are kind of numbers behind that, which for us our environment team does. So that's a group of staff that don't necessarily work as like what we as a subcommittee do, but look at kind of what the university does from like energy perspectives and other things that obviously, and food waste as well, which is quite an interesting topic actually to look into, and also difficult to address in many settings. But looking at those numbers of what is the waste that's produced, what is the energy that's produced, and that can actually, those numbers then can help kind of look for solutions, or kind of also create a narrative. How can we do something? But it is kind of difficult, I guess, sometimes as students to put that forward, because you don't have them, like, or you don't have that, like that, those numbers or that time to always, at the same time as creating these initiatives, also monitor everything and record everything. Something that we're planning to do with the subcommittee for this next year is kind of set up a strategy, because for us it's a 1 year, so the environment officer gets elected by the student population every year, and then a new subcommittee forms. So basically what we're doing is for 1 year kind of setting up what every person in their different roles in the committee wants to achieve, and then that kind of include goals that maybe something that's of definitely tangible, like 3 goals, something that's very tangible, something that's sort of in the middle, and then something that will be ideal to achieve. And I think that will be helpful to monitor what we're doing and kind of monitor what everyone's achieved, and also create a sense of, oh, this is what we did and this is what I personally did. So this is something we're trying out for this year. And I think it's probably, a good idea.
Yeah, I recognize some of the things there, but I also think a thing we try to do is that we include people who aren't in our movement or aren't in our group by actually talking with the press. And you can say it's not as easy always to get the press's attention, of course. That's a thing of itself. But just like being out there and telling people like the small things count as well. If you actually care, that's the first step on these kind of things. And that we say that you don't need to like, it's not like calorie counting, that kind of thing. We don't. That's not what the goal here. The goal is that you feel that you contribute, that you take the actual steps that do help, and that you have the information to take those steps. Choosing to take the train to your parents in Christmas instead of the airplane has a huge effect. And giving people just tiny tools like that through press, Facebook, social media actually helps. And we can't measure that. And I think that's also okay. And some things you just don't measure, and that's perfect. Other times we can see that when we had like the Earth Hour, and we had it last year, but that was a weird reason why. And this year it was more planned, and we got like 500,000 people to join in some way. And that's like, well, Norway's 5 million people, so that's a lot of people. But it's probably definitely some double counting there. But we can use numbers when we want to and want to be strong. But sometimes nature itself has a value, and there's no way to count it as well. We also see that, oh, if there's 50 salamanders living in the water and they're endangered, doesn't matter if they're 50, 25, or hundreds, they're still endangered, and measures need to be taken care of then. And that's really cool. So it's just trying to find out if they actually are endangered, so we can actually save them. Fingers crossed.
And I quite agree with you, Aurora, because, well, I think that sensibilization is a whole point, and I think it can't be measured. Maybe you can measure like the number of people that listen to you. Like if you organize some events and nobody coming, like then your action is useless, of course. But I think like this kind of sensibilization is very about repetition, because you have to repeat a lot what you're saying, because it's like that it will enter to people's brain. And good practices will become reflex. So well, I think you can't measure directly the impact of what you do, but you can measure the people you're touching with your actions, and that's I think a great indicator of the utility and the impact on your action in the short term.
Yeah, I think we all agree with that. Yeah, so for now it's a bit more than an hour. So at the beginning it was like planned to be about an hour, but like the session is still open, so we don't have a limit of time. But maybe, I don't know if you have extra time and you wish to talk a bit longer, or we can also we plan another meeting to talk about maybe more dedicated topics. It's a bit as you all wish. What would you prefer? Or
I would love to have like not a brainstorming event, but more like show your project right now kind of thing, and get some input on it, because right now it's at least hard for us to get input from the students around us about what they care about. So getting some fresh eyes on something would be really cool, and we also could probably learn about how we organize things, because I know that the Norwegian movement of how we do things is definitely quite often different to the German one, as I've learned through the school strike movement, which I think is cool. And sometimes we learn from them, and sometimes they learn from us, and that kind of thing I would like to learn more about, just like how do you do things as well. Yeah.
Would you like just like for example a green office from UK and a green office from Germany, so they are on equal base and they just talk about ideas, or you would like a bit like now just like mix a bit for people from different countries but from different type of associations, and then they have different type of ideas, and when they all talk to each other, then by the end you can just have a list of the different ideas.
Yeah, I like a mix quite well. I once was in a project with some people with Kenya and Korea as well, and that was a really great mix because we had different ways of doing things but same goals, which was really fun. So that we learned a lot from each other.
Okay, nice.
Also, maybe through addressing some common struggles, not just kind of talking about projects that are working, but actually different people addressing this is something we've tried and it's just not really it's really difficult and it's not working. Does anyone have any ideas? Are there different approaches? How could we go about this? Because I think there are different things everyone maybe struggles more or less with in a setting, and to hear about what other places are doing is really helpful to feedback. Oh, this is something that they're doing, let's try this, or to kind of maybe figure out a different route or way to approach a problem.
does someone want to add something to that? Okay, so Nadine, since the beginning, took some notes about what has been said during the whole events, and so the different ideas and topics that has been approached. So maybe if she still wants to do it, she can just give us a small recap of what has been said, so we don't forget anything about it.
Okay, so can you all hear me? Good. Okay, so first of all, thank you all for joining. I think this was quite a fruitful event, even though we're just like getting to know each other at the moment. But so I have taken plenty of notes of what all of you said, because there were already some good ideas in there, and I will provide a full spreadsheet with everything that we talked about later this week. But for now, I just wanted to talk about some points that stood out. So I think what we can all agree on this is that those who have a structure in the way of kind of a green office think that it's really helpful, and those who don't have it think that it's really missing. So I think we all agreed on the point that it's good to have one concrete point where you can go and get help, and where there's a set structure of how students communicate with the university and the board, and who is responsible for what. And also a certain point that is where you just know they are doing something, even if all the small initiatives and organizations are currently maybe a bit struggling, and nobody just knows what's going next. I think that was like maybe the biggest point. And then also you talked a bit about how you started this kind of green office or committee at your university. And I think most of you might share the same struggles in like convincing the university to do it, except if a staff member is the one initiating. But maybe that's a really good point. So if you want to initiate something, if it's a green office or something else, if you can get a staff member or even a professor or a department head on your side, I think you have a lot of leverage when talking to the university board. So that's always maybe a good idea, to just know people. And that's where we come back to networking and just know who might be interested in what and who you could talk to. And those might also be things that a green office knows about. So who might be the best person for a certain topic. And then afterwards, we talked a bit about different types of projects that we have in our universities. So for example, food, getting people to bring their own food, and getting CO2 numbers displayed at the university cafeteria, and stuff like that. So these are already good projects that might be easy to replicate. And same goes for mobility, and also raising awareness for climate issues at your university, and also like not just in the university but also in the area. I think it's also very important to connect the people around you with the students as well. As far as impact estimation and calculation goes, you said that you're sometimes already calculating numbers, but this takes a lot of time, and it's important to have somebody who's helping you on that part. Also, there it might be helpful to share those numbers with each other. So if you're like implementing a similar or maybe even the same project in your university that already somebody else has done, so you might already know what kind of impact to estimate, and that might also help in convincing the university board and stuff like that. But it's also okay not to measure things, because just some things just can't be measured, and it's very important that people feel involved in doing something to keep up the impact. And then we talked about, some possible new events at the end. So I think we will keep this series up, and we want to stay in contact with all of you in order to just like stay connected and share all these amazing information that everyone already has, and just help other people somewhere else, maybe in the next town or maybe somewhere all across the globe, to do the same thing that you're already doing, so that nobody has to do the same mistakes twice and keep working twice as hard. I think it's really important to stay connected, and that's what we're here for as Climate Connect. So thank you for joining, and I hope you all will be here for the launch of the platform, and we can just keep in contact with you.
Thank you, Nadine. Yeah, just to add a really short content of what's after what Nadine just said. Some Slack workspace where we're planning to.
You cut out a second, Thomas.
Yes, oh, sorry, I'll start again. So we have been created a Slack workspace, so where we were planning to invite you all. So I don't know if you all know what Slack is, but it's an app. Yeah, basically just like an app where you can just do some group talks and do some different by topics. And so I think, like, we think it could be a nice opportunity for all of us, just to have some place where we can just all talk, share ideas, and, for example, like start creating a list of all the projects that you are all starting to create in your own university. And so then you can see who's working on the same stuff, and then help each others. So I think Toby just sent you the link on the chat, but I will send you an email with it after the call. And other than that, we will launch our platform on the 28th of July, and so we are looking for testers before then. And so for those who will be interested in helping us and start collaborating by being put in relations with multiple organizations worldwide, you can just contact us after the event, and we'll just like manage to try to work together. So yeah, and very last words, just thank you for everyone for participating. It was really interesting, and maybe some of you want, like, maybe one of you can just say one last final word, and maybe say if you would like to participate to other meetings afterwards, or if you want to create any projects or any other idea. So maybe we can start with like by the order. So with SNEEP, Magdalena, if you're still here.
Could you please explain it again? I think I have a bad connection.
Oh no, it was just like to if you could just say a final word, saying what, like, if you would wish to participate to other meetings like that, and what, if yes, what would be the topics you would like to approach, and yeah, basically if you have anything to add to what has been said since the beginning.
Yeah, okay. First of all, I want to say thank you very much. I think it's very important, like all of you just said during the meeting, and yeah, it can make really an effort if we connect better and learn from each other. And yeah, I think like topics we talked about, like food, and for me it's quite important because I think it's like a small thing you can change, and it's not like big, but it can have a big effort. And if you talk about this issue with other people and in the university, I think like Tobias explained, our project with the cafeteria and the carbon footprint, yeah, I think that's quite an important issue where we can make a change.
Thank you. Maybe who was next? I don't remember. Maybe Johanne, if you want to say a final word.
Yes. So I think it was really nice to meet you all, guys, because well, too often we focus on our single university, and I think it's quite like it's quite useful to discuss about all the subjects with people from all around the world. So that was kind of nice. And well, so I'm not the president of my association anymore, so I think it would be interesting to keep in touch. But I will share all the information to the new students that are coming next year, so you can keep in touch with them.
Thank you. Aurora, if you want to add a word.
Yeah, cool. I think this is really exciting, especially because we don't have the same structure as you guys, and now we have an oil and energy office. Yeah, we kind of want that to go away. So finding new ways and people to help us get rid of that problem would be nice. Preferably with the green office instead. That seems cool. But since we're in exams right now, my board doesn't even know I'm here because I don't want to answer the messages I sent them. So I probably have to get back to them before I can say anything more. But this is exciting and cool, and I'll definitely hang around. Yeah. So, and thank you guys for fixing this.
Thank you. Thomas, you know to keep on.
Yeah, thanks. And thanks a lot for organizing everything. It's really cool, especially the point that meeting people from around the world is really amazing, not just people from Germany or Bavaria. And that's really cool. And I hope it's going on and growing as well. So a lot of groups are coming together with a lot of different opinions and different tactics. And yeah, I hope that we can like help establish a lot of green offices maybe, or have common projects, maybe even a global project where all groups together have the same thing they want to do and do it in the same week. That might be quite impactful, and that would be really nice. So I'm looking forward to new meetings.
Good to hear. And yeah, maybe Leo, you can have the last final word.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you everyone for organizing this and for coming today, because yeah, it was really insightful, and I think what I'd really love to see with this also is to kind of grow connection with other universities, because I think the more we can actually support each other as well. So I think what would be nice is also to share with each other, like not to just to share with each other what we're doing, but then also to share generally share what is being done maybe from at the different universities, and that can kind of encourage people to see, you know, this is what's being done, and that can then also maybe in the different areas get, because I think recognition is always like an important part to see within student communities, that they see, oh, this is having an impact at a global level because it's part of this bigger global initiative, and I think that could be really helpful, also in terms of addressing topics like the different areas that I think I commented a few things in the group chat as well, in terms of things that all of us are addressing, like food waste and travel, especially we aren't like international students, and offsetting, and then to share some of what's happening, but then also some difficulties, and then maybe what other groups are doing to gain some inspiration from that. So I think I also have 2 subcommittee members who listened in for the call today, but I think in general we're very supportive of participating and forming part of that growing network, because I think that's really important, because the more we can collaborate effectively and share ideas, the better.
That was a super nice conclusion. Okay, so if no one's had something to add, maybe we can stop for now. So we will all be still in touch on. To decide to organize another meeting, and from our side with Climate Connect, we'll still anyway organize a few other one, and we'll always invite you, so you're more than welcome to attend to the future ones. So one last time again, thank you for your participation. It was like really interesting to get to know you and to get to know each other's. And I wish you all good luck with your project, with your exams, and I hope that we might have another call like that soon. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Nice evening.
Bye.